So I chose to do the subject mental health among college student athletes, um, and the prevalence, challenges, and strategies for support. This is an important topic because I feel like it goes overlooked, especially in college, because coaches don't realize how much certain things in the sport of an athlete can actually do to them mentally, and change is needed. Um, for me personally, this is just important because I've battled with this through injuries my junior year and um, this year, my grad year at Valparaiso, battling with another injury in my arm, and then I just got out of the hospital with rhabdomyolysis, so that's another one that's going to take a toll on me. But yeah, let's get started. Why does this matter? Here's a quote from a official from the governing body of college athletics. Mental health is mental health concerns are real and they impact everybody. Student athletes balance heavy demands, academics, and just keeping good grades to make them eligible for participation in their sport, training, doing, probably about 15 to 20 hours at least a week of training, and then competition. If you lose in something, it can really make a toll on you on the mental side. This leads to having stress from so much things being on their plate at the same time. Mental health affects performance, well-being, academic outcomes, injury risk. That's a big one, especially just because once you get injured one time, you're just that's always on the back of your mind when you're doing whatever you're doing that may have gotten you hurt the first time, whether you're shooting a ball in basketball and you maybe got your ACL torn on a like cut or something, or just throwing a baseball after Tommy John. And then just long-term health. Preventing and noticing mental health can lead to better performance and better overall well-being. Just simply asking a kid how's it going. How's everything? You need help with anything? Just something as simple as that. Key stats: the prevalence of mental health issues in student athletes. There's a little bar graph down there, and it just shows the prevalence of depressive symptoms by sport and gender among 465 NCAA just Division One athletes. And yeah, there's your numbers right there. The sports that were studied were track and field, soccer, softball and baseball, and lacrosse. In one survey, 22.3% of collegiate student athletes screened at risk for depression, 12.5% for anxiety, and 8% for low self esteem. While that doesn't seem like a very big number, among all college athletes, 22.3% is a lot of people that should not be dealing with that. Another report indicates that substantial numbers report feeling overwhelmed, mentally exhausted, anxious, sad, or depressed, though generally at somewhat lower rates than non athlete peers. According to a 2022-23 survey of over 23,000 student athletes, male athletes reported feeling constantly overwhelmed and dropped from 25% during the pandemic to 17%, being mentally exhausted from 22% to 16%. For women overwhelmed, it was 44%, being mentally exhausted 35%. Risk factors and who is most vulnerable. In the bottom left corner, there's a picture, and it just has like a circle or a cycle basically, and has one showing low self esteem, and then that leads to depression. Depression leads to risk behaviors for eating disorders. That leads to fear of negative evaluation, which leads to stress and negative thoughts, and then that leads to the competitive anxiety, and then it just repeats the process. Female athletes, freshmen, or those reporting pain are at higher odds for depression. Among surveyed athletes, females had significantly higher anxiety and depression risk compared to males. Additional stressors unique to student athletes are academic workload. That's a big one. speaking from my own experience being a student athlete, those days in class when you're just getting loaded with homework and you got a test on that's up in say a week, then you got a final. I mean, finals week is always the biggest academic workload and it's always stressful for everybody. And in your sport, you should just have a little bit of a break on that week just to focus solely on the athletic or the academic side because that's what's going to keep you eligible and stress free. Performance pressure is another big one. Training load, I feel like that's one that's underlooked too, as um, giving these kids too much training. I mean, just the brain, I mean, everything just gets exhausted, and then you just basically end up like a zombie and it just leads to depression because you're just in the same circle of life every single day and it's just on repeat one day after the other. Time management, that's another big one. You got to have time to do, I mean, you got homework. I mean, each class is usually around, they say 3 to 6 hours of homework a week. And say you got 12 credits, which is probably 4 classes, that's 20 hours of homework right there alone. Yeah. And then identity pressures like who do you want to be in that sport? And yeah. Uh, Athletes also underreport or avoid seeking help due to stigma, the toughness culture. Another one, like speaking of experience again, my coach will be like, "Hey, how's your arm feel?" I mean, obviously, if my arm hurts, I'm not going to tell him my arm hurts because I want to participate still. So I just say, "Oh, I'm doing good," and then that just, I mean, it just leads to basically like just negative thought and just the fear of just not getting better. And then the lack of perceived support as well. The consequences of untreated mental health issues. Effects on academic performance. Mental health problems can impair concentration, motivation, and academic success. When you're getting worked too hard and you have too much on your plate at one time, it can just lead to basically brain fog and you can't concentrate on something. All you want to do is just rest and you're basically just depressed thinking about all the stuff you have to do and you just feel like you don't have the energy to do any of that. The effects on athletic performance and injury. Mental distress, fatigue, poor coping may increase injury risk or distract recovery. I think the effects on athletic injury is probably the biggest one because when you ask kids like, "Hey, how you feeling?" I mean, like I said before, they're not going to tell you, but that goes underseen, and then just like that, "Hey, coach, now my arm," like the kid gets to the point where it's like, "I gotta tell coach," and when he does, and then all of a sudden he has Tommy John, he's out for a year, and that just leads to a crippling depression because you can't do anything for a year and you just think your career's over. Long-term well-being, unresolved mental health issues can lead to chronic stress, substance misuse, burnout, even after athletic careers end. Yes, long-term well-being is, I mean, I feel like a lot of college athletes may get to that point where it's like they've been playing AAU or like 12U or whatever, travel ball their whole life, and they get to college and it's just like they're in travel ball all the time, and it gets to the point where they just don't want to do it anymore because they're so burnt out and so out of energy and they just feel like they don't have the time for it. Um, in some cases, mental health could get so bad for some students that it could lead to possible suicide. I mean, this isn't very often, but you will occasionally see a story of a kid who just couldn't deal with the mental side of the sport and unfortunately they end up taking their life because they feel like there's no other way out. I've always felt like this is a preventable thing because, like I said before, coaches, if they would just take the time to just let kids know, it's okay to feel these ways and like be able to sit there and talk with them and cope with them and like make them like know that they're here for them, not to be like, oh, if you're hurt, you're just a wuss. Like, you're not tough. You don't have mental toughness. Just let them know, like, I'm here for you. Like, you can come to me if you need help. Especially if a case like leads to suicide. Like, that's never something you want to see, whether it's just a person who's not even relevant to that or a coach even. What are institutions doing, and what should be done? According to the most recent large-scale study, which is around 23 student athletes, as mental health care improves and awareness increases, reported concerns are declining. However, there's still a need for accessible mental health services, destigmatization, outreach, screening, proactive wellness programs. I know that for sure NCAA has many resources for those in need. Coaches, administrators, and athletic departments need to treat mental health as seriously as physical health. They need to offer resources, support systems, and normalizing conversations. Kind of like what I was saying before, just talking to the kids, making sure they're all right. Hey, how's it going? What's going on? And then I know for sure that the NCAA has multiple resources for kids struggling with any type of mental health, whether it's just depression, anxiety. Yeah. Recommendations for coaches, universities, and athletes. Integrate regular mental health screenings into athletic medical wellness checks. I feel like this should be a once a year type of thing that everyone goes in, gets tested just to make sure, not tested, but like screened to just make sure everything's going okay. Provide accessible mental health services such as counselors, psychologists, and confidential care. Offer education and awareness to destigmatize mental health issues. Normalize help seeking. Yeah, I mean I feel like it's the biggest one is just letting these kids know it's okay to get help. Like you're not you're not like you don't have a problem for getting help, and you don't need like to like hide that from people. Encourage balanced scheduling. Encourage kids to ask for help balancing academics, athletics, rest, recovery, and social life. Yeah, we kind of covered that. Just not having too much at one time where they just can't take it. Um, sorry. Um, Promote resilience building and coping skills. These are things such as stress management, time management, social support, and self care. Yeah, I mean, kind of covered that already too. Stress management is huge though, and self care. Just not getting those negative thoughts, putting yourself down, just thinking you can't do it when you know you can. But your brain won't tell you that. Conclusion and call to action. Student athletes face significant mental health risks, such as depression, anxiety, stress, exhaustion, but many tools and strategies exist to help a holistic approach. Mental and physical health is essential for long-term athletic and academic success. Yeah, we kind of went over that. Institutions, coaches, teammates, and athletes themselves each have a role in building a supportive, open, healthy athletic community. The call to action. Here we go. I mean, this is the biggest thing out of this is just working together to normalize that mental health is it's going to happen, and it's okay to talk and just support just talking to people and their well-being, and ensure that these student athletes are thriving, not just performing on the field, make sure they're doing okay in life, and they're not just athletes, they're people too. They struggle with things. And this is just kind of a chart here. This shows while student athletes face serious mental health burdens, in some metrics they report lower rates than non-athletes. The interpretation of it is athletic status does not make someone immune, but there may be protective or selective factors such as support system structure, identity that impacts self-reporting or resilience. What I learned is that mental health challenges about 30 to 35% of athletes every year, which is a astronomically big number. These struggles come from high pressure environments, intense expectations, and unique stressors like performance pressure, injury, and identity loss. I have suffered that already this year with getting rhabdomyolysis from getting overworked. And I mean, hopefully it doesn't take too big of a toll on me, but definitely going to make me rethink pushing myself too hard in performance pressure. And then just, yeah, coaches need to become a better advocate for educating these athletes on what mental health is and how to avoid it, and not avoid it, but just need to just talk about it and prevent it. Like, we don't want people just being done with the sport because they are getting too overworked and they have too much on their plate. Just, it's okay to talk about it. And then there's my reference page.